I do not want to let the show come to an end without discussing the other enormous ongoing story of the moment, of the historical moment, and that is the sudden sea change, apparent sea change anyway, in our national attitude towards sexual harassment by powerful men. This is such an important story, and this seems to really be, as I mentioned earlier, a turning point in our culture, a moment where hopefully, if we're lucky, women have come to the point where they will no longer tolerate abuse by those who have power over them. Not that I'm blaming women for having done it in the past, but something far from it. It was never possible in our culture to report these incidents and maintain your professional career as a woman until now. Now, I don't claim to be wise enough or to have versed myself enough in the sociology of the moment to know why it is that it's changed, but it clearly seems to have changed as more and more women come forward without the retribution they have come to expect. It is a miracle that it's happening. I certainly hope with all of my being that it continues. More and more men are being called out for their behavior. In some cases, legal action will hopefully be taken because crimes are being reported. But among the men who are seeing some consequences for their actions at last, a number, of course, of powerful people in Hollywood, including the director Brett Ratner and, of course, Harvey Weinstein, whose behavior seems to have started all of this. Dustin Hoffman, Kevin Spacey now with an incident involving a 14-year-old. In the journalistic field, we see Leon Wieseltier of the New Republic, and now the story of Michael Oreskes. Now, Michael Oreskes was a very powerful figure, both at the New York Times and then at NPR. As Pointer, the journalism website and magazine, points out, NPR itself has been slow to report on its own scandal, and it has done so using, unfortunately, neutral language, as in, and I quote, "Questions are being raised in the NPR newsroom about when management became aware of some of the allegations against Oreskes and why further action wasn't taken prior to the release of the Washington Post report," which is what broke the story. Now, that reportorial neutral voice, questions are being asked, leaves out who's asking them and what is the answer and what are you, given that it's your institution, doing to change it. Now, Paul Farhi of the Washington Post, who initially raised these questions in public, wrote, quote, "NPR's senior management was aware of multiple harassment complaints by women against its top newsroom executive for the past 2 years, but took no action to remove them until reports were made public." So what that tells us is we still have a ways to go so that these consequences are immediate, so that the bad behavior stops, and so that our news organizations tell it like it is.